I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Getting Ready to be a District Leader event. The objectives, we have two objectives. One, to inspire and motivate you to move to the next level in your personal growth and within Toastmasters, but also show how you can develop skills for your career. The reason that the career is important, in France, between October and December, the fields hiring the most were IT, communication, media, finance, insurance, and real estate. These fields require teams, communicating a message. Some require more networking skills than others, but they all require time management. And today, and life balance, of course. And today, you will hear from our panelists on a district role, what each liked most, the benefits, challenges, how they felt when first taking on the role. This is an interactive evening. You will respond, the audience will respond several times during the evening to polls. When you have questions, write them in the chat as we move along, and the panelists will respond to the questions at the end of the panel discussion. Our timer for this evening is Rima Samori, Vice President Education for two clubs, Les Orateurs de Liège Toastmasters Club and Shape International Toastmasters Belgium. Our Zoom Master and Project Manager for the panel discussion is Soleil Hoon. She is Area B3 Director and Vice President Education of Black Forest Toastmasters in Belgium. And I am your moderator, Distinguished Toastmaster Colleen Shaughnessy Larson. I'm your immediate past District 59 Director and Secretary for Toastmasters 75 in France. I mentioned a question and answer section planned after the panelists speak. As we move along in the chat, I said, write your questions. What I'd like you to do each time you have a question, write it in capital letters, question. Then our Zoom master, Soleil, she can see that it is a question. She'll see it more easily and can make note of it so we can all have them answered later. If you have a specific role, make sure you add that to your question, okay? Our panelists for this evening are Virginia McCory, Valentina Camille, Paola Perina, Lillian Shaftacola, Aletta Rocha, and Florian Bay. Distinguished Toastmaster, I'd like to tell you a little bit about them first. Distinguished Toastmaster Florian Bay is past District 91 Director, and his professional expertise ranges from the nuclear industry, strategic planning, to data analysis. Florian works as a data analyst coach with Multiverse in the UK. He is an expert in analyzing also district data and has provided amazing overviews, charts, and graphs for Region 10 districts, helping them understand their strengths and potential for improvement. They're beautiful, amazing. Distinguished Toastmaster Aletta Rocha is our second vice president at Toastmasters International. Aletta is co-founder of Interview Survival Guide. She is a career acceleration coach who helps people develop the mindset to get promoted and hired. Sounds good. Aletta is also a certified world-class speaking and interview coach. She is representing the Club Growth Director role on our panel and is a member of District 74, Region 11 in Africa. Distinguished Toastmaster Lillian Shaftacola is immediate past District 109 Director. Lillian is multilingual and her professional expertise ranges from head of commercial risk at Société Générale to engineering, industrial, mechanical, and financial. She is currently pursuing a PhD. Lillian will represent the administration manager on our panel. Paola Perina is immediate past public relations manager, District 109. Paola is multilingual and has been a business owner in the fashion business for over 2 decades. She is now director of marketing to support a startup made of young women with big dreams. Her background is in psychology. Paola's professional expertise is in creating communication strategy, building thought leadership, and writing marketing plans. Distinguished Toastmaster Valentina Kemi is past Division B Director, District 59. Valentina is multilingual and the CEO and founder of Lincoln Europe SPRL, consulting and advising on EU policy analysis, EU project designing and creation, and helps individuals and trains individuals on EU policy funding and project management. Toastmaster Virginia McCoury is past Area Division B Director, District 59. Virginia is multilingual with a long-standing expertise in European affairs and international media and public relations, covering EU policies for chemical safety, research, and innovation, and EU enlargement, amongst others. She is currently employed by the European Commission in Brussels, coordinating communication on the European Social Fund. So we have a very esteemed panel, and I welcome them all here. Our first question for the panelists is, describe the role you represent and 1 or 2 things that were most important to you that you wanted to accomplish in that role. Describe your role and represent and that you represent, and add 1 or 2 things most important you wanted to accomplish. Let's start with our area director representative, Virginia McCoury.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Fellow Toastmasters and friends, I see I already have a question in the chat, but let me start by saying what I wanted to say to you, Jacques, so that we can see if this is an answer to your question. Imagine the role of an area director like a conductor of a symphonic or any other orchestra. So you are assigned to 3 or more clubs. In my case, it was 6 clubs, and each of them is very, very different. So you have corporate clubs and community clubs. You have strong clubs. I had a Dutch club, a French-speaking club, bilingual clubs. And what you have to do as a tree orchestra conductor is to extract the best music of this diversity. And we all know that a good orchestra, in fact, has many musical instruments. So in your area, you can make the best music by bringing together the strengths of the clubs that are good to empower the clubs that are weaker to become even stronger. How do you do that? First, you need to know these clubs to understand, to crack the code of the strong clubs and to see what the weaker club needs. So this may be your own club, but there are also others in the area, most probably. And then you multiply the strengths of the bigger clubs, of those clubs that are with good tradition, and you achieve a harmony by attending to the needs of the weaker clubs with speakers, with education training sessions by members of those well-performing clubs. In order to do this, you have to meet these clubs. You have to attend at least 2 meetings of a club in the first semester of Toastmaster year and then in a second semester of Toastmasters year. So Toastmasters International expects from you, this is one of your KPIs, to have a report for each of these clubs, but you are using, it is based on a very easy template to use, which helps you, in fact, analyze your analytical strengths. Skills are very much strengthened to this, and you identify the training needs of the club so that you can deliver to them. These reports are presented in November and then in May. And usually in March, you have to set the stage and to organize the gala concert of the area, where you give the stage to the best individual musicians of the club. So what is this gala concert? I'm sure you guessed it. This is the area speech contest. You may decide to be the contest chair, or you may decide to delegate this to another Toastmaster who can do this as a pathway project and move on with his educational program. So as an area director, you can sharpen your skills to delegate and to empower, amongst many others, of course. Some of the skills which you can also sharpen are to extract the melody from each of the clubs, and like that, similar to your own club, you can become distinguished, select distinguished, or president distinguished area by achieving this harmony. And it's a great pleasure. In my term, my area became a select distinguished area, and I didn't do it alone. I had a lot of training and a lot of support, including from the division director. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Valentina, would you please describe your role for us and one or two important things you wanted to accomplish with the role?
Yes, thank you very much, Colleen, and dear Toastmasters, dear friends. I'm happy to share my experience with you. 3 years ago, I was division director of Division B, and the mission of a division director is to guide and support the division by supervising and guiding the area directors. The division director is the trade union, the liaison between the district, which is the higher level, and the clubs. But usually you do not interact directly with the clubs. You do it through your team, which is mainly composed by the area directors. So the task of an area director is really to have, to try to set up a team which is well performing. And as I said, the area director are the main components, but of course, it's also advisable to set up a more extended team, also by trying to find volunteers who would like to help the division, also with sometimes roles that are not official roles of Toastmasters. The responsibilities of a division director range from very different tasks. First of all, you need to work with your team to develop a vision, and then to build an operational strategy to implement that vision. You also need to organize trainings, contests, especially the division contest, which is also a division conference. So it's also a lot about event organization, event management. But then, for example, you have also other tasks, which is, for example, the realignment. So you also need to, as Virginia said, to know very well your clubs, the clubs that are in your division, the weaknesses, the strengths, and also work, for example, with your team to see if it is necessary, if the configuration is correct, or if it is necessary to develop a new configuration, what is called realignment. what we wanted to achieve, it was the first year of COVID, unfortunately. So it was quite challenging. But as we all know, challenges also bring opportunities. So by working together, we had the possibility to empower all our clubs in strengthening the online presence. We also set as a goal to empower our clubs to be better with a social media presence, because especially during the pandemic, it was really essential. The only way to really reach out to people and also to try to attract new members was really through social media. And we also set another goal, which was by the means of the area directors to try to discover new talents. Because we all know that in our clubs there are very talented people, but because of very often fear, sometimes it can be time, but sometimes it's really fear or a lack of self-confidence. They do not want to put forward themselves. So what we tried to do was to discover these people and to encourage them to take an active role or to develop a very specific project. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. Next up is our representative for public relations, Paola Carina. Paola, can you describe the role you represent and one or two of the most important things you wanted to accomplish with the role?
I was saying that as a public relations manager, the main focus needs to be on communication. So I will not really go into the details because those are easily found on the leadership manual. What I will talk about is about communication. To be successful as a PRM, there's one thing that you need to make sure of, and that is to make sure that communication that is born here successfully and effectively reaches its target. And I'm going to give you 3 examples here in 3 different areas. The first area is the communication of the core team in the district towards the clubs. That, of course, goes through the division directors, the area directors, and then the clubs. The trio creates programs, trainings, incentives to support the clubs. Do clubs know about them? That's the challenge for the PRM, is to make sure that this line of communication is active and effective. Second area, the district is a big family and it's made out of members. Is there a space for members to talk with each other, to really be in touch with one another, to share knowledge, to share information? And area number 3, it is the outbound communication. It's those people out there, those who are not Toastmasters, that land on our pages, maybe on our social media, on our website, maybe through a Google search. What do they see? How do we communicate towards them? Are we attractive? Are we putting our best foot forward? So it is these are the areas of communication which may seem easy, but they actually need work to be implemented and used effectively. So to sum up, because as I said, the details you find very easily, but to sum up, what PRM really needs to concentrate on is communication, the district towards the members, that line of communication. It's within the district communication, take care of the members and allow them to talk to each other. And third, make sure that we are, as a district, putting our best foot forward in communicating with non-Toastmasters and sometimes even with Toastmasters from other parts of the world. Back to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Paola. Thank you. Ooh, makes it exciting. Our next speaker is Lillian Sheftacola. Lillian is going to represent tonight the administration manager in the core team. Lillian, can you describe the role you represent and one or two things that you felt were most important to accomplish with your role?
Yes, of course. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the administration manager is the secretary of the district. What does that entail? One thing I realized early on is that the duties of the role can be split into official and unofficial ones. The official duties that I was carrying out were taking the minutes at district meetings and then ensuring that they were published in a timely manner, setting up the district WhatsApp groups, Zoom accounts, Google Drives, and other multiple communication tools used by our district, handling the main district correspondence, sending emails and announcements out on behalf of the district trio and the DLC chair, whether these were to our members or to the headquarters, liaising with coordinators of district events and offering them any support needed. For example, when the district had to travel for our district executive committee meeting, I would support that. I was also maintaining all district records. These were the official duties that I carried out as per TI. Unofficially though, I discovered that there was so much more going on, and I'd like to share it with you. As I wandered around the district throughout the year, offering my support, I often found myself becoming the eyes and ears of the district director. I would find out member needs and concerns and convey these to the core team so they could help. Members who were uncomfortable approaching the district trio directly felt at ease chatting to me, and I took advantage of that to see what we could do to support them. At the same time, I ended up being the go-to person of the team. I would often serve as a help desk, a shoulder to cry on, a complaints manager, and a mediator to help with conflict management between members, clubs, etc. Therefore, even though many people would believe that the role of the administration manager is not a particularly sexy one, I would actually say that there is a lot more to it than you can see at first glance. Definitely the lessons learned in that year supported me throughout my Toastmasters career. And therefore, I would urge you all to consider being the admin manager. Thank you, Colleen. Back to you.
Wow. You read between the lines on much of that role. That is really inspiring. Thank you. Aletta, Rosha is our next panelist, and she is going to represent the Club Growth Director. And Aletta, would you please describe the role and one or two of the most important things you wanted to accomplish with your role?
Thank you, Colleen. The Club Growth Director role is a big role. It's probably one of the toughest roles I've ever had, but one of the most rewarding. You are responsible for the marketing and for the growth of the district in terms of clubs, and you're in charge of member retention, club retention. So a lot of the metrics by which we measure the success of the district fall on your lap. And that was quite daunting right at the beginning, getting used to this. What I loved about the role was the fact that you can't do it alone. So you had to work with your division directors, sometimes your area directors, and empower them to be able to start clubs in their divisions and areas. And you'd interface with the program quality director in terms of training that was needed. And the one skill I learned that I think is so valuable in all areas of life is the art of following up, because you've got multiple clubs being in various stages of being chartered, and you've got to know which one is where and who's doing what next. So it is a big role, but it's an exciting role. And if you translate this into the business world, think of any customer service role, any sales role when you're trying to grow a client base, where you're trying to improve the results of your company. Those skills are all very much relatable to the club growth role. So in a nutshell, it's marketing, it's club building, doing it through a network of leaders across the district.
Wow. Thank you, Aletta. Thank you very much. Next, Florian is going to tell us about the program quality role, and then he will also talk to us about the district director role. Florian, would you like to begin with program quality, describe the role, and one of the two things that you found that were most important you wanted to accomplish with the role?
The role of program quality director is multifaceted. First thing I want to say is you're the number two of the entire district. Club growth director is number 3, program quality is number 2, district director is number 1. So already the scale of things that you're dealing with in any of the trio positions, as Aletta already alluded to, can be quite significant. We're not talking about a few people. We're talking about potentially hundreds of clubs and thousands of members that you have influence over, and hundreds of leaders that you are indirectly or directly working with. So that's the first thing I want to highlight about both of these roles. Program quality is all about ensuring quality. What can you do so that the quality of meetings across the district improves? What can you do so that all the members in the district get the best possible membership experience that they can get? One facet to that is training. So spearheading the organization of club officer training, of leadership institute, which topics to train on, how can you make the most impact, how can you get the most leaders trained, how can you then help the club support their members achieving more educational awards so that they renew their membership and we keep them in the long haul. And there's also an aspect of working with district leaders themselves, training them, identifying specific training that their clubs might need. And certainly not least, a big part of the program quality director role as well is the contests and the annual district conference. For the contest, I mean, you're going to be working with a district chief judge, if there's one, and a number of subject matter experts. But for the conference, it's a case of identifying who's going to take the lead in organizing the conference, who you can rely with to help you, ensuring that this person has a team to support him or her. And ultimately, the buck kind of stops with you on the whole experience of the district conference. Yes, you're going to have a team organizing it, but you're going to have a big influence on the team. You might be approving the budget. You might be approving the program, saying yes, no to things. And right now, it can be a big thing to manage, but it's really rewarding. Now, to move on to the district director role. The best analogy I can think of for the district director role is you're the chief executive officer of the entire district. And whatever happens in the district, you kind of have an influence over it, be it directly or indirectly. Huge part of the role is working with the wider team. The program quality director, club growth director, admin is leading, but also the division and area director, because they're part of the wider district executive committee. You chair these meetings, you're kind of going to have a lot of input into the designs, the agenda of these meetings. Also working with the program quality director to define the training, with club growth for what strategies you can do. And this is for me what was actually the most interesting part of the role. You got to have a very strategic mind as district director, because the scale of things you're looking at isn't small. So that needs you need to be able to abstract things a little bit, while also remembering that these are real people you're working with, and not always numbers and lines on a spreadsheet and so on. You might be interfacing with other organizations as well as district director, because you kind of are the one that signs the checks and gives approval to things. Also with the finance side of things, procedure. It's a very rich role. There is a lot to it, but it's an opportunity to have an amazing experience leading a large organization.
Thank you, Florian. Thank you to the panelists for that first question. And I would like to insert here that don't be scared, because there is training at the district level. There is training for the trio at the international level. You don't go into these roles knowing everything at all. It's a learning experience, just like in your clubs. And also, we're here. We've survived. I've been in Toastmasters since 2010, and everyone has their own year when they started. We're still alive and still wanting to do things. So look at these ideas as challenges, and you're only in it for a year, that particular role, and then you move on to the next one. For some roles, you can repeat. Let's move into our next question for the panelists. What did you like most about your role? We'll start with Virginia McCrory in the area director role. What did you like most about your role, Virginia?
Well, there are many things that I liked in my role, and it was a pleasure having it. And maybe if I can say so, it was the power to empower individuals and clubs. I was very lucky that in my area, there was one district champion of public speaking, and one of the corporate clubs was interested to organize training for them to prepare to take part in contests. Interestingly enough, they had never participated in area and division contests until then. So this created a great opportunity to bring, as I said before, the champions of the district. There was one also in my club, although my home club was not that strong, but we had a district champion, and to organize this session with all the corporate clubs to inspire them. And what happened? One of the members of the corporate club became a silver medalist in the district contest. It was his first ever participation in a competition, but thanks to this, the corporate clubs discovered community clubs. And then they became ambassadors, those members who really got the benefit of this participation. They became ambassadors, and they started promoting Toastmasters more widely. And as a result of that, this corporate club got even more members. And this silver medalist became the club president, something that he was not planning to do before. So you can see how one step at a time can lead you to the next level. And this is really a pleasure to create this community. So there were lots of co-creation opportunities. And this was one of the things that I enjoyed most in my role. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Valentina, what did you like most about being a division director?
I liked a lot working with the team to, as I said, to develop, to really discuss, exchange, get ideas, sometimes very creative ideas, to really set the vision and then to implement it. I'm not a visionary leader in the sense that there are some leaders who only have the vision, but then when it comes to implementation, they don't want to deal with that. It's not me. I also like really putting my feet in the implementation. And when I was division director, for example, we came up with the team with not only the events, the trainings that we're obliged to do according to the Toastmasters protocol, but we also organized something that was really the result of the exchange within the team. I remember we organized the co-creation workshops with the VPPRs, because as I said, one of the objectives that year was really to empower the social media presence and empower the VPPR. And this was really something very, very nice and funny and enriching. What we also did, for example, during the division conference, which was very well organized, and it was Virginia's HPL project, we also had an entertaining part, which was extremely funny. So you can do plenty of things when you have a good team and people who are really motivated. What I also discovered during my experience as a division director is also that I like recognizing people. We all know that it is important when we work with other people to motivate them, but also to recognize them. And very often we also forget about that. But I had the opportunity during my year and also afterwards to organize special events, award ceremonies. One was during, it was the Christmas period, so we combined an online, let's say, winter season party together with the award ceremony for the people who reached the DTM, Triple Crowns, etc. And again, it was really, really nice. And then due to the pandemic, we didn't have the chance to meet in person, but we had a lot of awards to distribute prizes, because on top of the official awards and prizes that Toastmasters International put at disposal, we also, with the team, we came up with challenges and also other types of awards. So we had the opportunity finally to meet in person, and we did it in November. We combined it in with the TLI, and it was really, really nice. And it was a very nice experience for me because I prepared some slides. So I was searching on the web to find nice pictures that could really tailor the specific moment of that particular occasion or event or a particular person. And this was really nice. And for me, it was really a bit going back and reliving the whole experience. And I saw that people really liked it. So these are the two main things I liked. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. Paula, what did you like best about your role as public relations manager?
Well, Colleen, to tell you the truth, it's really hard for me to just point to one thing, because my public relations manager's time was a blast for me. I had a great time. So there were so many things that I liked. But if I have to just point to one, it would be building a team. The public relations manager cannot really go it solo. It needs support. It needs to find collaboration. But unlike other district roles that come with a preset team, like division directors come with area directors as a team, the public relations manager has to go out and find its own team. And it is this process, it's of creating a win-win collaboration that I really enjoyed. I was, at the beginning, I was looking around the district. I'm looking at the members, reading their LinkedIn profiles, and I saw so much talent out there, so many skilled people. But I also saw younger people, maybe less skilled, less experienced, but very eager to participate, to learn new things. And so starting June, I think it was beginning June, the month of June and July, I spent having conversation with members. I interviewed many members. I was telling them about the projects that I had in mind. We were just having a conversation. I was telling them, I would like to do this. I would like to create that. And then I would observe the light in their eyes, the ones that, those eyes that sparked when we were talking about a certain project. I knew that I had a match there. In the end, I had 10 people on my team. And we did create a win-win collaboration. They were able to fulfill some of their pathway projects, and I was able to get the help that I needed for my role. So yes, building a team was one of the things that I enjoyed the most. Back to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you. Lillian, I'd like you to answer the what did you like most role about your role for both the administration manager and for the PQD. Why don't you start with administration manager? What did you like most about that role?
Thank you, Colleen. Actually, I think I should be fair and begin by clarifying that I had not originally targeted this role as one that would add value to me. You see, the administration manager was my first position on the district team. Prior to that, I had been a club leader and had really enjoyed the experience, but I had not given any thought to going further. I was not even really aware that there were all these leadership possibilities at the district level. And one day, out of the blue, I received a phone call that would change the course of my Toastmasters life. The incoming PQD of our district called me and said, "You are going to be our next administration manager." "Excuse me," was my response. "But what is that?" "Don't discuss, Lillian. Just go for it. It will be a great experience and we need you." The whole team agrees. Since I have always liked challenges, I trusted her and jumped into the role. And the rest is history, as they say, because thanks to my year as the administration manager, I ended up falling in love with the district and its roles. And that's why I wanted to continue. But what was so great about it? The main thing was that I was able to move beyond my club's boundaries to meet and work with a variety of people from all around the district. Interacting with so many members was fun and educational at the same time. As I looked for ways to support them all, I found myself learning much about how the district operates. My district has 10 active countries, and being the administration manager gave me the opportunity to feel close to every single one. To illustrate this fact, I will just say before I took on the role that I would always introduce myself as Lillian from this club in that country. But after being the administration manager, I would just go to a major Toastmaster event and say, "I am from District 109, because I really felt I represented the district. At the same time, let me just say that I gained a lot of technical knowledge, which served me well in my professional life. For example, when I first took on the role, I knew very little about Zoom and Google Drive. It was pre-COVID. By the end of the year, I'd become quite the expert, especially since the district director I was supporting was very technically minded and I had to keep up. And finally, I was able to improve my leadership skills. For example, I had always had a tendency to try and struggle through problems alone, but my year as admin taught me the value of communicating with my fellow members and of working as a team. So it was very useful. I really liked a lot, and I was so happy that I got to be admin. Back to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Lillian. So what do you remember about being in PQD and liking?
So I will switch gears now to jump into my PQD role. And there I will say that my experience here was very different, as this time I was very clear on what I was doing. By the time I applied for PQD, I was an experienced district officer. I knew exactly what the role was about, and I really wanted it and campaigned for it. The main thing was that I love sharing knowledge with people and setting up trainings and events. What I had not anticipated, though, when I first sent in my application in late 2019, was that COVID would rear its ugly head. And so by the time I took on the position in 2020, everything would be online. Now, I'm sure many of you are saying, how terrible, but every cloud has a silver lining. Because what happened was that I discovered that this would open up the world for me when organizing trainings for the district officers, for the club officers, and even for the whole district. Participants were no longer limited to those who could make the trip to the scheduled training room on that particular date. Anyone invited could join in and actively take part from anywhere. Even more exciting for me was the fact that I could call in trainers from all over the world. And I did. My officers were able to benefit from workshops given by past international presidents, members of the international board, as well as other experts in leadership, regardless of where they were living. Finally, we were also able to spread the trainings out and have different modules on different days so that more people could attend at least some parts of a training. So these were all the advantages of virtual training that I really enjoyed. Moreover, since people were stuck at home during that period, we decided to host a humorous event one weekend for the whole district, where we had comedians from all over the Toastmasters world come in to give humorous speeches, humorous speech workshops, and we even developed our own fun competitions. All in all, therefore, the message that I wanted to leave you with is that the PQD role is indeed a very significant one, as was mentioned before. But you should not let it scare you away. It can also be a lot of fun, as it allows room for a lot of creativity as you work to ensure that your members will benefit from the best possible contest and training experiences, whatever the circumstances. I loved it. Back to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Lillian. I know PQD is one of those roles I wanted to do it again, and you weren't allowed to do it 2 times in a row, but it was a great role. Why don't we hear from Aletta, who's talking about the club growth director role, and what did you love most about that role? Aletta?
Thank you, Colleen. One of the most exciting things about being elected as club growth director is the exposure you have to people beyond your district in the same role or in the district trio roles globally. And that's an incredible experience. Twice a year, we have district leader training, once at the International Convention and once about now for mid-year training. And you meet up with people from all corners of the globe doing the same role as you. And you put your heads together and solve the same problem. So you're dealing with someone from India or China or Australia or Africa or the States or Brazil. It is so stimulating that you have connections with those people. You also work with region advisors who are selected to head up regions, and you get to work with all the club growth directors, for instance, in your region. And that to me was just like opening up a whole new world of Toastmasters that I didn't really appreciate that existed up until that point. So it was incredibly stimulating, not only to learn from them, but also to appreciate how the best practices that you have in your district can be of value to people doing the same role somewhere else. So it really just opens your mind to the whole global family of Toastmasters, the global family of leaders that all want one another to succeed and who share challenges, who share solutions, and who put their heads together for the same reason. So that's probably one of the highlights of that role.
Wow. Oh, I know this. If you can, especially live training, it's so, you are right. It's so stimulating. It's eye-opening. Oh, yes. Florian, what did you like most about being district director?
I think for me, one thing I want to highlight is being district director is the culmination of previously being program quality director and club growth director, because the recommended best practice is you do 1 year as club growth, then you become program quality, then you become district director, and this is when you bring everything all together. That for me was very rewarding and something it was nice to kind of see it all coming together. One thing I really enjoyed is the chance that you have an opportunity to make a difference on your district and your members by setting up a vision, a clear vision for the year ahead, some communication strategy that you'll be using, and some actions to do everything. I mean, looking back to my year, when we were starting in June 2019, we got the whole plan for the year ahead. This is when we were playing the District 91 board game I had designed to familiarize ourselves with everything that will be happening, that we then got the club officers to play themselves, to kind of saw some of the cool things we were planning for them. Also the opportunity to kind of, I would say, streamline the way we were doing things, working with the admin manager and also finance to have some procedures. But to me, the most enjoyable part of the role was really the contact with people, working with the leaders, seeing how they were doing, how you could support them better, and also visiting the clubs, meeting the members at event, talking to people to see that what you were doing right at the top actually was making a difference right down to the club level. And visiting the clubs all across the district, I spent thousands of kilometers on trains that year visiting the district. I loved it. COVID changed things. It was a spanner in the work, but I will be talking a little bit more about this in the next part of the panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Florian. For anyone who has just joined us, be sure to write your questions in the chat and start it off with question in capital letters. And then Soleil will bring them up after the panel discussion, but we do have time planned for the end. And we've got to move along here. What I'd like to do now is just move right into the challenges. We've gone to a crescendo. What did you like most? But one thing I've heard from the panelists is sometimes you have challenges in the role, but how did you, when you started, did you have fears, self-confidence? Were you afraid to work with a team or time management? Tell us your story. So let's start with Virginia. Talk about a challenge and some of these other ideas people have been mentioning in the chat about, I don't have the time. Something about your role. Tell us your story.
Well, I want to tell a very interesting story, which is not about time. It's about self-confidence. So when I was, in fact, stepping into the role of area director, I was just 3 years into my Toastmasters membership. And I had to work with clubs that have the reputation of the best clubs, not only in Belgium. They are clubs with 20 and more years of experience, and people didn't even know me. So how would I have the authority to work with the club presidents, VP Education, and with all the committees of these clubs? Who am I? So I had a lot of doubts. How am I going to go forward? And this fear, in fact, translated very interestingly into the fear of asking questions. So what happened? I was in charge of a variety of clubs, and one of them was a club that is holding its meetings only in Dutch, a language that I don't know. But I didn't know of this when I took over as an area director. So I had to attend the meeting. The first meeting, I sent a message and the VP Education said, and you will hear a little bit of Dutch. My initial impulse was to ask a question, what does it mean? But I had a fear. And then when I went to the meeting, I discovered that I have to hear only Dutch. And I couldn't pull out of this meeting despite being online because they announced that I was there. So, lesson learned, I discovered that I have to ask questions. And though I am a trade journalist who is all the time used to ask questions, at that moment I discovered that this is a leadership skill. And that curiosity, in fact, and asking good questions can help you to lead. That way, I could ask a lot of questions, and this is something for an area director to know. You don't need to have all the knowledge. There are a lot of people to ask, just you can learn how to ask questions and get the answers. And this can save you a lot of time. I'm eager to
Okay.
address the question of time during the Q&A time. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you. Valentina, your challenges when you started the role?
Yes, what was mainly blocking me before thinking of applying or not was really the question of time, which is also something that it's one of the main barriers that we have seen also in the results of the poll. But then I said, okay, let's try. I will not be alone. I will be with a team. So for sure, we will see. And the main challenge we had, not only me, but as a team, is that unfortunately an area director stepped down very early. It was the second month of the year, and exactly 1 week before a training that he was supposed to organize. So you can imagine that all this was quite disruptive. And for the training, I had to step in, and finally we found other volunteers at the very last moment, and the training was, we carried it out, let's say, normally. But then for the rest of the year, we haven't been able to find another person. So what we did was, I was lucky enough that 3 other area directors accepted to basically take another club from that area on board, and this was really, really helpful. But then what we also did was to try to find other volunteers, and I'm linking to what I said at the very beginning. So it's important to try to motivate people, also with very small tasks, because even someone that can help you with a very small task can be a precious resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. One member, one task. Paula, what about your challenge when you first came into the role?
Well, actually, my challenge began right from the get-go. I mean, the next day after I was elected, and I was going through the tasks there in the duties that were in my role, I realized that I had to create a communication plan. And I come from I'm an entrepreneur. I've always worked by myself. I never worked in a corporate environment. Therefore, creating a communication plan for Toastmasters at a district level is pretty much alike creating it for a corporate environment. And I did not feel ready for it. I had never done it before. So I freaked out. I felt I was inadequate. I felt that there had been a terrible mistake. My election, I got what, I don't know now what it's called, but you know, when you don't feel up to it, you feel an imposter. That's it. So for 1 week, I cried on my own shoulder. And then I took action. I went out and, like Florian said in the chat earlier, I went to look for someone who had been successful at the role before me. And I found Francesco Fedele, our region advisor. He was very helpful. He explained to me, you know, pretty much what was entailed. And then he gave me a challenge. He said, okay, so now you go out and study and create a very good communication plan, good enough that you will be able to present it in 1 month to the region. I says, what? Present it to the region? I felt I mean, if I was worried before, I became even more challenged and worried after that. But actually, I went through it. I did it. And I want to thank Francisco for this, because my self-confidence after that really got a boost. And I really felt that I was fit for that public relations manager role after I was able to go through that. So I would like to tell the people here who might be considering becoming a public relations manager this year or even in the future years, that I am available to, to be a mentor in creating this communication plan with them. I won't challenge them. I won't ask the region advisor to have them give a webinar or anything. I'll just support them. Thank you, Colleen, back to you.
Wow. Well, thank you for stepping up already and being that mentor. Whoa. Lillian, for admin manager, what was the challenge? Fear, confidence, team, time?
Thank you, Colleen. Possibly a combination of all, since it was my first role at that level as well. But the main challenge, as people have said, was balancing everything, personal, professional, and Toastmasters, because the administration manager role is definitely one that requires a lot of attention. It's time consuming, and people are dependent on your actions. For example, when there is an important meeting looming at the district level, you just cannot put off sending out the required documents. It's not fair to keep the team waiting. To look on the bright side, what I realized, even while I struggled with time, was that I was able over the year to sharpen my time management skills, and I found myself becoming more organized. Moreover, I had another issue because my district tends to be quite diverse, and it was a challenge working with each country and trying to meet all the expectations, as they all had their own way of working. That meant that I had to be very flexible, even as I focused on ways to be inclusive. And finally, I had to be creative. I was often trying to work with people who did not care about reading their emails or would never reply. And it was difficult, yes, even frustrating at times. However, coming face to face with such situations did give me the opportunity to practice my leadership skills as I worked to find a way to engage as many people as possible. And one final comment. I agree with what Paula said, that sometimes there are times when you feel like an imposter. I often felt out of my depth, especially in the first months. What am I doing here? This is wrong. I'm never going to complete this. But whenever that happened, I would take a deep breath and remind myself that so many people believed in me, not just the team that had appointed me, but also the members of the district who were coming for support. And that gave me the confidence to continue and let me feel that indeed I wouldn't let anybody down. And really, that was great because I stayed and managed to benefit from all the great things I mentioned earlier. Back to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Lillian. How about the challenge from Aletta, from the program quality director role and from club growth?
Okay.
When you step into these roles for the first time?
Let's start off with the club growth. The biggest challenge for me was so many people wanting to know exactly what the status was on the various clubs who were starting all over the district. So I felt like everybody was watching my workflow with a microscope. And whenever we had a meeting, I was the one who was speaking the most because I had to report on all the various KPIs for the role. And that took quite a bit of getting used to. And it taught me that I had to keep communicating and find ways to make it easy for the people involved in the various divisions to update, like a Google document, for instance, so that everybody could have access to the information in real time. And so that everybody could find out what they needed to know without me having to field endless calls. But it was quite daunting in the beginning. to get used to that level of scrutiny and that level of accountability. But it was a good life lesson, and certainly something that has been very useful in my life outside of Toastmasters. In terms of the PQD role, it was great coming up with training topics and ideas. But of course, we all know the story. The people who need the training are not necessarily the ones who come to the training that you offer. So my team and I became very shrewd, and we came up with a concept where we developed, for instance, club membership building modules that could be run in a club meeting. And we'd go to the clubs who needed the help, and we wouldn't say to them, we're here to train you. We said to them, we're running a pilot, and we'd appreciate it if you would allow us to have the pilot at your club, and then you give us feedback. And quite a few of them did allow us to do that. So we were able to take some of the training to the clubs that needed it, as opposed to waiting for them to come to us.
Very good ideas. Okay, make notes, everyone. Florian, what about the challenge when you first took the role as district director? Fears, confidence?
Looking back for me, every time I've stepped up to a trio role, there was a brief period where I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, I'm doing this big role, I'm quite young, and so on and so forth. So I've kind of felt it every time. Not necessarily as much for district director as for club growth, which was my first trio role. This is because everything had been building up towards this. But I had to deal with the unexpected as district director, with COVID. Looking back at January 2020, District 91, I would say the wall of Toastmasters in Europe, we were going up and up and up and up and up. And the question wasn't whether we would achieve our objective, it was how far could we go beyond the objective. This is the narrative that was starting to develop in the earlier parts of 2020. And then COVID happens, and everything it was like you take some crystal, you throw them against the wall. This is exactly what happened. A lot of emotional resilience was needed initially to make the decision, organize the meeting, but I had a crash after that. I had a crash. I actually even considered resigning because I'm like, we're not going to do anything. So we're not going to meet our goals. I'm a failure. But my mentors persuaded me, and many other people persuaded me to go on. And I actually learned a lot from it. And I would say the biggest takeaway when you're in a senior leadership position like this, you got to be prepared to deal with the unexpected. You're going to have something thrown at you sometime. It's not part of the plan. Nobody's talking about it, but it's the name of the game. You got to be prepared for these types of things. We weren't prepared for this in Toastmasters. None of the elected politicians were prepared for COVID either, if it's any cause of comfort. So that would be my takeaway. You can actually learn a lot from these experiences, which you can then apply. That story of dealing with COVID helped me get my current job, for example.
Yeah. And when you start these roles, you have no idea what's going to happen. Like you say, excellent. Thank you, Florian. In the meantime, let's open the floor. First, Soleil, do we have any questions in the chat?
No.
Okay, so let's open the floor. If anybody has a question, please use your reaction hand and raise your hand and ask questions of our panelists. Jack, what would you like?
So again, it's a question about becoming an area director. And my question would be the following. I would have, as an area director, the vision of having clubs develop a culture whereby 20 members is seen more as the minimum to have in October, November, after the renewals period, rather than at the end of the year, because I'm in a Brussels club and we have small clubs. And I think it's long-term not good because we have people getting exhausted and doing burnout. But my question there is, would that clash with the vision of the district? Because I'm not sure if a district is still doing, say, the 30 is the new 20 program. And if that does clash, how could that be remedied, so to speak?
Florian has volunteered to
I'm
take
happy
that.
to take this one. What I want to stress here is I will be imparting my own opinion. Yes, what Jack said, that club membership strength is starting to decline. It's a major problem in Toastmasters in Europe right now. I can pull the data, I can pull the numbers, and it's actually quite scary. Now, is the district still doing 30s and U20 and so on? I'm not necessarily aware of initiative going around these in Europe at the moment, but as an area director, Jack, if your vision is, I want my clubs to be strong, I want to see 20 people, 20 members in every meeting plus guests and the buzz in the room, then you have an opportunity to go around, to gather the team of the VPs, VPM present and say, hey, let's discuss, this is what I would like to achieve. How can we do it how can we do it together? So there's definitely a chance for you to do that there. And the mindset that you're showing there that, hey, we need to grow the clubs and so on, I would say it's a reason to step up and be area director, because this is a concern in the organization at the moment, and we got to grasp this nettle, otherwise Toastmasters will cease to exist. It's as simple as that. Am I being dramatic? Well, the numbers aren't too good right now.
Thank you, Florian. Thank you, Jack, for your question. Robinana, would you like to ask a question?
Yes.
Unmute yourself.
Good evening. First, I just want to make a comment on that. Having been a past area director, I think the challenges are great, but they're not unsurmountable. I will tell you from my own experience, although I'm not part of this panel, it's a very enriching experience. Yes, it's true that you have a lot of clubs, but you need to focus on the clubs that really need your support to help them continue. There have been clubs in my area that were failing, and I want to tell you, they're doing amazingly well this year. Last year was an anomaly, and I say to everyone who was part of the district, I give you chapeau. I don't take credit for the fact that some of those clubs are doing better. It just happens to be, it has to do with the committee of those clubs that need to be driven to make them a success. You can only support them just so far. But on that note, my question is, and again, I clap and applaud everyone who weathered through last year. It wasn't an easy year, but this year is better. My question is, what is the main difference between a program quality director and I put it in the chat, and a program quality director?
And club growth?
Yeah, and a club growth director. Yes,
Okay.
please. Just so I always get them confused, and Marina explained it to me the other day, but I want to hear it from the people who do the jobs. But Marina did a great job. I just want everyone else to hear it.
Okay. Aletta, would you take that question, please?
Sure. The club growth director, the name tells it all. It's marketing, it's growing the clubs, it's growing the network of clubs, it's making sure the clubs can be sustainable and healthy over the long term. The program quality works closely with the club growth director to help those clubs deliver value to their members and deliver training to the leaders like the division directors and the area directors so that they can be successful in their jobs. So if you wanted a one-word description of either of them, the club growth is more focused on marketing and growth. The program quality is more focused on training and empowering those to do their job.
So just so I clearly understand, the program growth director is basically helping the clubs grow their membership. Yes?
Grow their membership and also grow the number of clubs in the district.
Okay, and then the program
quality is the person who supports everybody else in the district through training so that the quality of the program we deliver at club level is so good that people keep signing up and keep coming back.
Now, I know
Yeah.
I could read this in the book, and I did, but I like to hear it because I'm more an auditory person. So thank you so much. And I don't know where you're from, but I'm guessing South Africa. I love your accent. Thank you.
Yeah, for everybody, you have a club executive committee. And when you get up to the district level, it's the district executive committee. So the district director put a parallel to club president, program quality put a parallel to VP Ed, club growth put a parallel to vice president membership. And that's why when you do your area councils and your division councils, you want to have those 3 roles on your council, because that's basically you're building a XCOM at another level. We are moving toward the end of our event, and I saw no more questions. Did we have any more questions?
Colleen,
All
I
right.
wanted to answer the question about time. There are quite a lot of people that are saying that the blocking part for them to be motivated, I don't know if for area director or for any other role, is the time that you want to spend and that you need to spend. It's different for a different role. I can just say that for an area director role, you have clarity. How many times you have to attend meetings of a club? When do you have to organize the area contest? And if you have the time to do it yourself, or if you want to give the opportunity to someone else and you just orchestrate it, then the other thing is you can practically stay after the meeting, talk to the club committee or meet them before, so you don't have to travel, especially now that clubs are meeting in person. For a dedicated meeting with the club committee. And then, of course, you have to have a set time to be available to answer questions from the club presidents and vice president education, who are your main points. But you can also time your activities in Toastmasters. You can just set the days when you can invest more to support them. And I have observed that you can actually do this very easily, like WhatsApp group, like lots of other technical tools that can be a shortcut to the time. Mm-hmm. Time cannot be a barrier if you are enjoying what you are doing. That will take you much less time because you will not feel it at all.
Yeah, and Toastmasters has a structure in the handbook, the district leader handbook. All the dates are there, your required activities. Work backwards from June 30th, work backwards to July 1st. Put it in your calendar. Set yourself office hours and put them on your as part of your signature, so everybody knows those are the hours I want to try and keep. So discipline yourself. Figure out your time management, and then request workshops from people that work in the field of time management. And I think you'll get ahead that way. So we're going to move into our conclusion now. And I hope we have inspired or motivated you to move to the next level in your personal growth. We spoke on how you can develop skills for your career and, time management. And I want you to please remember that this panel is very diverse. You've heard different accents. We all come from different cultures. And this is what it's like in a district team. Everybody comes with a different communication style, but it's an opportunity to learn to communicate and to be heard and understood. And you're at a district level, area division, admin, public relations, club growth, program quality, district, you are moving into a wider audience and you're expanding your experience. So move out of your comfort zone, try something, And remember, you're in a team. You're not alone. Every role has a team, and district role has a team built in. And you're going to gain knowledge, and you're going to be able to share that knowledge and resources with your clubs. You're going to learn so much more. It's going to become addictive. So I thank you for participating. Thank you to our project manager, Soleil. Thank you to Rima, our timer. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their knowledge and time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a big thank you to you, our honored guests, our fellow Toastmasters. We're here together. This is a social organization. We're all volunteers, and we're all volunteering to have fun. So I wish you a happy year for 2023 and a pleasant evening, a pleasant week. And I just would like to say good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen, for organizing. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
And the
Thank you.
recording will be available.
Night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Colleen. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for a great session.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank
Thank you,
you
bye.
to all. Thank you.